team, Thor and Ruby, have been a little bit sketchy this morning and have wanted to spend a little extra time with me. They've been scratching when I'm up reading to you, so I thought I'd sit on the floor and make their lives a little bit easier. So here we are. We're going to be reading from the kitchen floor. And you might see them pop in and out as we keep reading. So we last time left off and I asked you about Roz and why you think she prefers to stay with the cows instead of the machines. And you guys did a really great job coming up with the fact that she's used to all the animals from the island, right? So animals are much more in her comfort zone than other machines. And then I asked you to tell me what robot task your robot might do for you. So very fun to see some of the things like clean your room, do your homework like the Sharif children wanted. I know that my robot would kind of do those things too. Definitely be so nice. So here we go. Chapter 6, The Monster. The cows were munching hay in their stalls when the big barn door slid open and a mechanical monster stomped in from the rain. The creature marched down the center aisle, her footsteps echoing through the cavernous space until she found an empty corner. And there she stood in the shadows as a storm began to rage outside. Everybody listened as the rain poured and the wind howled and the thunder cracked. By midnight, the storm had blown over, and there was only a gentle sprinkling on the roof. But the herd couldn't rest with that monster lurking in the corner. Cows began mooing at each other. What is the monster doing? She hasn't moved in hours. I bet she's waiting to eat us in our sleep. The cows gasped at this horrible thought, and then an old cow named Annabelle tried to calm down the herd. Relax, everyone, she said. There were monsters like this in my last farm, and they never ate any cows. Come to think of it, they never ate anything at all. If this monster has never eaten anything at all, she must be awfully hungry by now, a cow named Tess said. I saw the farmer driving the monster around in his truck, said a calf named Lily. I don't think he would have done that if she were dangerous. Nobody quite knew what to think of the strange creature in their midst. The monster is harmless. I think the monster's unnatural. I think the monster is moving. See what I'm talking about? Sketchy today. Thor, come here. The herd fell silent as the monster marched out from the shadows and into the middle of the barn. And then the monster did the impossible. She did the unthinkable. She spoke to the cows in the language of the animals. I am not a monster. I'm a robot. My name is Roz. You guys knew she could do that. Chapter 7, The Robot's Story. None of the cows could believe that this monster, this robot, this machine had just spoken to them in the animal language. They stared at her, nervously shifting in their stalls, wondering what she would do next. What Roz did next was simple. She told the truth. She stood in the middle of the barn and shared her story with the herd. I spent my first year of life on a remote, wild island, Roz began. I did not know how I got there. I only knew that I wanted to survive. So I studied the island animals to see how they survived, and a surprising thing happened. Their sounds and movements started making sense to me. There's another visitor. Goodness, today is a crazy day for video recording. Hi, Mr. Zach. Hi, Ruby. My goodness. I was learning the language of the animals. Even when I could speak to them, the animals wanted nothing to do with me. But that changed when I discovered an orphaned gosling. The poor little thing would have died on his own, so I cared for him and adopted him as my son. His name is Brightbill. A murmur spread through the herd. When the animals saw me caring for Brightbill, they finally accepted me. I was no longer alone. I had friends and a family and a home. Life was good. Until the Recco robots arrived. They came in their sleek white airship to take me away, and when I resisted, they became violent. The animals defended me. They fought bravely and destroyed the Reccos, but I was badly damaged in the fighting. I needed repairs I couldn't get on the island. So the animals loaded my broken body into the airship, and it took me far away from my home. Lily the calf poked her head through the railing and said, "What about Brightbill?" son is smart and tough, and he has a good flock, said Roz. I think he'll be okay without me. Where were you taken? Said Tess. I was taken back to the factory where I was made. The factory is run by a crew of robot workers called the Makers. When I arrived, they put me in a room filled with the other broken robots. Some of the robots were completely ruined. And the Makers immediately sent them away. But those of us with working computer brains were given a test. What kind of test? Said Lily. The Makers simply asked us questions. How long we had become damaged. They asked us how we would respond to different emergencies. They asked us to identify certain sounds and smells and objects. Robots who answered every question correctly were repaired. The others, destroyed. In the wilderness, I camouflaged my body to survive. In the robot factory, I camouflaged my personality to survive. I pretended to be a perfectly normal robot. I did not say that I had adopted a goose or could speak to the animals, or that I resisted the recos. I said what I had to say to pass the test. And it worked. Good for you, Roz, shouted Tess and the other cows. The Makers shut me off, and when I awoke, my body was fixed, and I was here on the farm. Now, like all of you, I belong to Mr. Sharif. The cows stopped smiling. Everyone was quiet. Then old Annabelle spoke up. I was taken from my friends and family too, she said. They're back on the farm where I was born, and I still think about them every day. It is difficult to be apart from our loved ones, said the robot. You know, Roz, things could be worse, said Tess. At least on this farm, you'll still be surrounded by nature. Yes, things could be worse. The robot's eyes brightened a little. But I am not safe here. If any human ever learns who I really am, they will have me destroyed. And that is why, when the time is right, I'll try to escape. Chapter 8, The Computer. Inside the barn, the lights were low. The sounds were hushed, and the night slowly wore on. A few cows were chewing hay, but for the most part, they were resting peacefully. Our robot had returned to her corner. The soft glow of the computer screen lit her face as she studied farming. She learned about the herd, the pasture, the fields, about the native plants and wildlife, about seasons and the climate and the weather, about the machines and the buildings, the fences, the tools, and all of the dairy equipment. Every detail was perfectly remembered in the robot's computer brain. And in one single night, Roz became a farmer. Chapter 9, The First Day. At dawn, the cows began to stir. One by one, they walked out the side door, across the muddy barn, and into the parlor for a quick milking before heading down to the pasture. They followed the same routine every morning, like clockwork. However, on this morning, the cows were joined by a robot. With her computer brain full of farm knowledge, Roz was ready for her first day on the job. She stomped through the tall, wet grass, and her head slowly turned as she scanned the scenery. The sun was rising, the fog was lifting, the cows were grazing, and then the whole world seemed to flip upside down. Wonder what she means by that. Before Roz knew what was happening, she was on her back looking up at the sky. A strong stench filled the air. Our robot had slipped on cow dung. Gross. The herd erupted in laughter. Tess called out, "Welcome to Hilltop Farm, Roz," which brought another round of snorts and moos. "You'll have to get used to cow patties and to laughter," said old Annabelle, strolling over. "Not much happens around here, so we're always eager to laugh." "I understand," said Roz. "I like laughing too." And she forced out an awkward, "Ha, ha, ha." Then the robot stood up, wiped her feet, and continued exploring the farm. But she was more careful to watch where she stepped. The fields and buildings and fences were all in need of Roz's attention, but her most urgent task was to fix broken farm machines. The herding machine was designed to roll through the pasture and look after the cows while they grazed, but it had gotten stuck in the mud and was becoming a popular hangout for birds. The field machine was gigantic, like a house on wheels. It was designed to roam the fields, planting, fertilizing, and harvesting the crops. But it had ground to a halt weeks ago and was now just collecting dust in a far corner of the property. The drone was a small flying machine with a special camera attached to its underside. It was designed to fly above the farm and keep a whole eye on the place. but it came crashing down when a mob of cows attacked it in flight. Other broken machines were hidden within the clumps of weeds, and still more were waiting for repairs in the shed. The peaceful morning was suddenly jolted by the sounds of power tools as Roz began to fix the machines. Thanks to her robotic strength and smarts, she made excellent progress. The hours flew by, and the machines rumbled back to life. The farm was beginning to buzz with activity. At sunset, Rambler came bouncing around the driveway with the Sharifs in the front and Oscar in the back. "How's it going, Roz?" said Mr. Sharif, leaning out of his window. The children giggled and waved from their seats. The dogs sniffed the breeze. "It is going well," said Roz in a robotic voice. "Many of the machines are working again." "I see that." Mr. Sharif gazed up at the drone circling high overhead. "We thought we'd come out and check on you, but it looks like you're doing fine, so we'll stay out of your way." "Keep up the good work, Roz." As the truck started rolling up the driveway, Oscar looked back at Roz and barked, "You smell like cow patties." He was right. The robot was filthy, and she finished her first day of a farmer by scrubbing herself with soap and water. Chapter 10, The Routine. Reader, I don't want to bore you with every detail of our robot's farm routine. Many of her tasks were incredibly dull, others quite unpleasant. I'll just say that on any given day, Roz might have to be a mechanic or a veterinarian or a gardener or a plumber or a cleaner, a landscaper, a carpenter, an electrician, or all of the above. Farm life kept Roz busy, indeed. Of course she did have help. You already know about some of the machines. But the entire farm was equipped with technology that made life easier for everyone. Doors and gates opened automatically. The cows wore electronic collars that kept track of their health automatically. When a cow's udders were full, she simply had to stroll into the parlor where she'd be milked by gentle machines, automatically. All the milk was piped into storage tanks and cooled and bottled automatically. Once the milk truck was loaded up, it drove away and made its deliveries as well. Mr. Sharif managed the business side of the farm. He dealt with customers, handled money, and ordered supplies. And he did it all from the comfort of his home office. Now that he had a robot to do all the farm work, he hardly ever left the house. Roz was more content than she had ever expected to be. Most of her time was spent outdoors with animals under the open, wide sky. Even while laboring in the field, she could always stop to smell the flowers, look up at the clouds, and feel the cool air drifting from the trees. And yet, Roz was living two lives. When she had the farm to herself, she could play with the calves or run through the grass or chat with the wildlife. But whenever the Sharifs were near, Roz had to pretend to be a normal robot. She could never, ever let them know who she really was. That's where we're going to stop for today. Looks like all is calm and quiet around here. Ruby is resting. Laura and Zach went back upstairs. My goodness. All right, so your task is going to be to draw what you think the farm looks like from all of the descriptions that we got. Draw a bird's eye view. So they said a drone flies up above. So I want you guys thinking, what does this farm look like? Really visualize, where is Roz living due to all the details that they gave us. So pretend you're up in that drone or in an airplane looking down. What do you see? All right. Talk to you tomorrow.